Welcome to another edition of 42 Straight Years In. On my crackhead update, I just left 7-Eleven up on Ross Avenue in Peak, and this young white guy, I had passed him. He was jogging, so he came into the 7-Eleven. He walked over by the beer case. He got him a cold beer. So one of the, I don't know if he's a Somalian or Ethiopian who owned the store, he asked him, said, "I hope you got some money to pay for that." He didn't say anything. He just popped it open and started drinking. So one of the guys working at 7-Eleven told him, "Hey, where's the money at?" So he didn't say anything. He just kept guzzling down the beer. So he got reached under the counter and got a small bat. He came out around there with the bat and swung at him. He ran out the door, out in the parking lot. And they told him don't never come back to the store. They didn't even call the cops on him. They let him make it. You can tell this guy, man, he was on something, boy. He was sweating. His eyes as big as his hell. Man, he was high on something. That's my crackhead update. Y'all know what it is. Get your shanks out and let's ride. Yeah, I received good news this morning. At around 8:30, I had spoken my last video on the guy who helped me out, Mr. Jesse Aguilar. Well, I received a text from him. I mean, he's still in isolation. He said later on today they're gonna move him to a regular room. He said the doctors told him that he's okay, but he still has the oxygen tube in his nose. He just snapped a picture and sent it to me. And he wanted to get out of the hospital. He wanted to get back home, man. Because this guy always busy doing things. And he remodeling his church. So he got a lot of stuff to do. And the cold part about it, he said, nobody comes to his house. Nobody's there but his wife. His daughter lived next door. And his grandson with her son, they comes over, and then his grandson from McKinney, he comes over, and his son. Those are the only people come in his house. He said he don't know how he contracted COVID-19. So that gives me something to think about. You know, I don't know if they just taking people, if you come in with any type of flu symptoms, they immediately say it's COVID-19. I don't know what's going on. He said, but I know when I'm around him, he's got a mask on. Me and him don't be close together. We 6 feet apart. I go over there at least 4 times a week because my mail still goes to my old address. Some of it does. So I get to interact with him maybe 4 days out of the week. And, you know, my new policy is no one is coming inside of this house unless it's maintenance. That's it. I'm not going to take no chances whatsoever. And I go visit my old buddies over in Oak Cliff on Bonneview. Shout out to Big O and Scrappy and Little Tommy. I'm going to curtail that activity, man. I miss those guys. We go over there, we sit around and kick it. And everybody go their separate ways. I'm going to even stop that until we find out better information on this vaccination they plan on giving people, and the numbers start going down. I'm not going to take that chance. So now I'll just go shopping. When I get through this video, I got to do my Patreon video after this one. I can't get them confused because it's a different subject matter and different language is used on Patreon than I use on my regular channel. You know, a lot of people say you can do what you want to do, which you can in this life, but everything has consequences. I tell the person, if you can do whatever you want to do, when things go bad, don't complain. Accept the good with the bad, because you're not going to win all the time. And once you ever enter the system, the judicial system, it's basically a wrap for you. It's a lot of things in your life you won't be able to do from that point on. You won't be able to vote unless you get a pardon. You can't legally own a firearm. It's a lot of jobs you can't hold because you can't be bonded. A lot of people, they're not going to allow you to work there if they do a criminal background check. A lot of companies, they're not going to hire convicted felons, regardless of whatever the crime was. You know, it's simply amazing. The city of Dallas hire convicted felons. A lot of those guys work for the city of Dallas. They are convicted felons. But if you're a sex offender, you can't work for the city of Dallas. But you can be a mass murderer, and they'll give you a job. But no sex offenders cannot work for the city of Dallas. You know, once I was at the Estelle unit in Huntsville, and I was working in the prison hospital. They brought this young Hispanic guy in. That's when the H1N1 pandemic was out. And everybody was afraid of, I think what it was called, the swine flu. Everybody was afraid of it. They brought this young guy over there from another prison and locked him up in one of the isolation cells back inside the prison hospital. Man, none of the nurses would go treat this guy. They just put him in that cell. He was fed by inmates. When inmates bring the food cart back there, they give him his food and pick up the trays. But they would not do nothing for this guy. And he just lay on his bed. He's sick as a dog. So I was listening at the nurses talk one day, and one nurse said, I got 2 small kids. I'm not going to deal with that guy. She would even put the PPE equipment on and go in his room because they was afraid of the H1N1 like they're afraid of this COVID-19. And so I was listening at them talk, and I told him, I said, hey, I'll go in there and do it. So just so happened, the warden at Estelle was back there in the infirmary. So the head nurse, the head RN, she went and talked to the warden. She said, this inmate orderly, he said he'll go in there and give this guy's medication. He asked me, so you know how to give a guy a shot? You know, I ain't never gave no one else a shot. I said, no, I don't think it's that complicated. So she showed me how to use a syringe. And the warden told me, said, you know you ain't got to do this if you don't want to. Man, I was thinking about this as a young guy, man. I think he's about 20 years old, man. He's sick as a fucking dog. They wouldn't treat him. They wouldn't do shit for him. I mean, nothing. None of the medical staff would not go. They would even go in front of his cell. So I had eased back there and talked to him. And he had asked me, said, hey, man, they got cigarettes here and weed? I said, yeah, man. I said, I'll bring you a fucking cigarette and some weed, man. And I brought him a cigarette in the joint. And I went out in the hallway and sprayed this Lysol all over the hallway where none of the nurses or the guards who work in the infirmary, they won't smell it. I kept spraying it in the hallway until he got finished. And I handed it to him, and he sprayed his room out. So the warden said, man, you ain't got to do that. I told him, I said, hey, man, that could be me in that room, sick as hell, and nobody won't treat me. So the nurse got a syringe, showed me how you inject a person. They filled it up with the medication. I put all the PPE equipment on, and I went in his room, and I started giving him his injections. You know, I don't know what the hell was inside of them fucking syringes, but it worked. The next day, when I came to work, I headed straight back to his room to see how he was. Man, he was up doing push-ups. Shit worked on him that fast, whatever it was. He was up doing push-ups. He's only 20 years old. His immune system should be strong as hell. And one of the assistant wardens saw me out in the hallway. He said, man, that was a hell of a thing you did. He said, man, as long as I'm a warden here, if you need anything, I don't give a shit what it is, man, you come see me and you got it. You know, I always, you know, when things went bad for me out here on the outside, I say, man, I done did some good, so it's going to be some good come back my way. It's going to reciprocate. You know, I live bad, and I've got help from people who I least expected it from. One day I was just standing by McDonald's. I had just ate. I didn't have that much money. I went to the car auction and drove some cars that day. And I had enough money to pay my cell phone bill and get me some cigarettes and get me a pretty decent meal. But I didn't have no fucking where to live. I was just standing outside of the McDonald's. A lady drove up in a car. She looked at me. She said, son, have you ate today? I said, yes, ma'am. First, it pissed me off. She calling me son. And I'm looking at her. Lady, I am older than you. But some tell me, hey, fool, hold your tongue in check. You know, I don't know where this is going. So she called me over to the car. She said, hey, I'm going to tell you something. I do not give a man no money. She said, something about you that I'm going to help you out. She gave me 50 bucks. So now, sometimes I do the same thing. I see a guy standing out. I'll just drive up and hand him 5 bucks. Boy, I don't want to hear his story. I drive off. I don't want to hear it, man. Don't tell me your game. I don't want to hear the spin on your life because I got my own problems. And I don't care what they do with that $5. I gave it to them. I don't care if they purchase drugs. That's on them. It's not on me. So I'm giving back to the streets like the streets gave to me. Because I done had some bad days and I got help out of the clear blue sky. I think I've told this once before. I was in Austin, just downtown Austin. Man, I was hungry as hell, smelling all that food coming out of these nice restaurants, and I ain't got no money. All I got is a phone, cigarettes, and a lighter in my pocket, and driver's license. That's it. Ain't got nothing else. I was just standing there. I said, man, I done spent all them years in prison, and I ain't like I don't know how to hustle. I got some game myself, but I don't want to get locked up. So I said, boy, I got to make a move. Can't just stand around here. I don't know nobody in this city. I'd see occasionally some guy who I met in prison. I'd see him occasionally in Austin. But most of them were struggling themselves. Me and him wasn't that cool in prison. I just was at the same prison with him, and I know who he was. But me and him maybe didn't associate. This white guy walked up to me. He said, hey, man, if you could only see how you look. He said, you don't see these people avoiding you? But I must have had a crazy look on my face, man. He said, you want to talk about it? So I explained my situation to this guy. And he took me over to this restaurant, expensive-ass restaurant. Ordered me a bad steak dinner. He asked me, did I drink? He was going to order me some wine. I said, no, I don't want no wine. I had way more problems than worrying about trying to get drunk. You know, he ordered some bottle of water. He just sit there. I guess he didn't maybe say, well, the guy homeless, they're going to try to play on you for some money. But I was hungry for real. I hadn't eaten in 4 fucking days, man. I was hungry. I think I had ate a candy bar or something like that. And I was smoking all them cigarettes trying to suppress my damn appetite. And this guy sitting and looked at me eat, man. I really wasn't full. Because some of these exclusive-ass restaurants, that shit costs an arm and a leg. And they don't give you that much food. This was a steak dinner, man. I could have ate 2 of them. But he asked me, he said, hey, man, you all right? I said, yeah, I sure appreciate it. He said, here you go. He handed me a $100 bill. He said, you need anything else? I said, well, I got to go get some cigarettes. He said, well, I don't smoke, but I'll take you to HEB. So he drove me down Congress Avenue. People from Austin know where the HEB is on Congress and Althoff. He drove me there, and he had a Porsche. I went in, and I got me 2 packs of cigarettes. When we got to the checkout, he paid for that. And he shook hands with me and said, hey, man, good luck. He let me know that was the extent of his help because he didn't give me no contact information or anything. But I appreciated that because I didn't have nothing. And I had to learn about the streets all over, how to survive, what resources they had in Austin. Man, I didn't know nothing about the city of Austin. But a lot of homeless guys will help me out. Hey, man, you can go here. These people will put you up a couple nights. You can get you a shower and get some clean clothes. These people feed breakfast. I had to learn the streets. You know, well, I can say one thing. I've been homeless in Austin and homeless in Dallas. It never did last no long period of time because I didn't want to get comfortable with that lifestyle. Every morning I'd wake up with trying to find me a job, some kind of way I could earn some fucking money without going to jail. You know, so I have very little empathy for homeless dudes who out using drugs, especially some of the old schools who get government assistance and they got an excuse for everything. They know how to go apply for housing and do all that stuff to make that check. I got to agree with them. The check would not pay no rent. On that SSI, you can't pay no rent nowhere in the world, nowhere in the United States with that SSI check. If you can pay rent, well, you won't have no money left for nothing else. You can't pay utilities if it's not all bills paid. And those guys are their own worst enemy. I don't have empathy. It's kind of hard to separate them. You actually got to been homeless yourself and deal with these guys. Look at how they think and why they do and how they do things the way they do. You just can't look at them from the outside. You won't be able to figure them out. Cause I know some homeless guys who wear clean clothes every day. They know where to go shower. Their clothes is ironed, but you don't never know he is homeless just because you don't see him with a backpack and a bedroll and a tent and all that crap. He's still homeless. Now, some of the younger ones, they're homeless because they either got mental, they got organic things going on in their head. They need some type of mental assistance. A lot of them on medication. And another thing, it's a lot of sex offenders that's homeless. Because it is hard as hell for a sex offender to get housing. Like where I live at, you got to go do your own background check. You got to go to DPS and pay them, and they do the background check and give you the results, and then you bring it back to the manager's office. And if it's anything on there about sex, you can't live here. No sex offenders is allowed. So a lot of those guys can't get housing, so they sleep on the streets. Now the ones that's on parole, they got places for them to go. If you're not a parolee, you is on your own, dude. It's a lot of those guys, man, just say the hell with it. They get comfortable panhandling and sleeping in dark, wet places. They happy doing it. They get used to it. I talked to one guy, he's been homeless 12 years. He born and raised right here in Dallas. They got lots of resources. They got agencies that'll get you a house if you want one. So a lot of people say, man, look at these homeless people. You got to, most every one of them you talk to, he can tell you about all the resources. So they know what to do. They just don't want to do it. They don't want no responsibility at all. They rather, some of the old schools, some of the ones get government assistance, they take that food stamp and sell it and get high and get them a motel room. That's why around the 1st through the 3rd of the month, all the way up to about the 10th of the month, you don't hardly see a lot of homeless if you go in that environment. They up in these motels. And that little money ain't going to last 4 or 5 days, and they back broke buying the crack and drugs and spending it on them crack fiend women. They ain't going to last long. They'll be right back out on the streets. They all disappear. You go over in South Dallas, you won't hardly see them. Around the 10th, man, here they is again, standing on every corner you go on, standing there with a cup. I can look at the old cat and know that he getting some type of government assistance. He getting SSI or he getting disability. And he definitely getting food stamps. They go blow all their money, then stand out and panhandle. Well, I gotta do my Patreon video. Y'all follow me over on Patreon. The link will be in the description. Y'all keep your shanks ready. These fools still got some money right long and now, so they acting crazy. And we might have to ride on the ass. Y'all like and subscribe. And I thank you for watching.